This is the LWA, Strict Liability and Products Liability Audio Outline. Strict Liability. Elements of a strict liability claim. 1. The defendant has an absolute duty to make safe. 2. Breach of this duty. 3. Causation, actual and proximate. 4. Damage to the plaintiff's person or property. Strict liability in animals. Trespassing animals, owners are strictly liable for reasonable foreseeability of damage done by her trespassing animal. Personal injury with strict liability in animals. Wild animals. Owner is strictly liable to invitees and licensees for injuries caused by wild animals. Exception: as long as the injured person did not antagonize the animal into attacking. Domestic animals. No strict liability for domestic animals unless the owner is aware of animals' violent or aggressive predisposition. The one bite rule. Note: any future cause of action will be strict liability. No strict liability for trespassers, but consider injuries committed by vicious watchdogs could be an intentional tort. Note: watch for a fact pattern of watchdogs could be an intentional tort of battery. Ultra-hazardous activities, also referred to as abnormally dangerous. Note: extra dangerous must meet the 3 requirements. Strict liability will be imposed for ultra-hazardous activities so long as all 3 requirements are met. 1. Activity involves risk of serious harm to persons or property. 2. Activity cannot be performed without the risk of serious harm. And 3. Activity is not commonly engaged in where it is being conducted. Exam tip: reasonable care and strict liability. An answer choice with reasonable care tends to sound correct, but keep in mind that for a strict liability situation, exercising reasonable care will not relieve defendant of liability. This will be the wrong answer. Strict liability. Scope of duty. The duty owed is to make safe where it is ultra-hazardous activity or some animal situation. Duty is owed to all foreseeable plaintiffs. Defenses. Contributory negligence states this is not a defense if the plaintiff didn't understand the danger. It is a defense if the plaintiff was aware of the risk and unreasonably proceeded in the face of the risk. Assumption of risk is a defense with strict liability. Comparative negligence. Most states that follow comparative negligence allow this defense in strict liability. Note: must know all defenses. Strict liability and products liability. Products liability refers to the liability of a supplier for a defective product to a person injured by that product. It is one of 5 theories that can be raised in products liability. Thus, strict liability relates to these 3 things: animals, ultra-hazardous activity, and products liability. Products liability. Liability can be addressed under 5 possible theories. 1. Strict products liability. 2. Negligence. 3. Implied warranty theories. 4. Representation theories. And 5. Intent. Note: always analyze strict liability, negligence, then present one of implied warranty or representation. 3 theories in total. Defendant must be a merchant. Casual sellers will not be held strictly liable. Service providers are not merchants of goods incidental to service. Commercial lessors are merchants and can be held liable. Every party in the chain of distribution can be held liable. A retailer may seek indemnity. Type of defect. Under any theory, plaintiff must show the product was defective. There are 3 possible types of defects. 1. Manufacturing defects. 2. Design defects. And 3. Inadequate warnings. Type of defect. Manufacturing. A product has a manufacturing defect when it emerges different or more dangerous than the same products, those that are made properly. Think: this one product came off the assembly line different than the others. The others are safe, this one is dangerous. To prove, plaintiff must show that the product failed to perform as safely as an ordinary consumer would expect. Consumer expectation test. The defendant must anticipate reasonable misuse. Also applies to defective food products. Type of defect. Design. A product has a defined defect if all of the same product have a dangerous propensity. Elements of design defect. 1. There is a safer, alternative way to build the product. 2. This alternative design is cost-effective. And 3. This alternative design is practical. To prove, if another version of this product would be safer, practical, and cost-effective, it creates strict liability. Compliance with safety standards is evidence the product may not be defective, but is not conclusive. Failure to conform to safety standards will establish a product is defective. Type of defect. Inadequate warnings. Manufacturer fails to give adequate warnings to the risk involved with use of the product. The danger must be apparent to users for liability to attach. Note: it would be either manufacturing or design, but could be in conjunction with warnings. The defect existed when it left the defendant's control. All theories must prove the defect existed when it left the defendant's control. Presumption is that if the product traveled in the normal channels of distribution, the defect existed when it left the defendant's control. Foreseeable use. The plaintiff must be making foreseeable use of the product. Note: this is broader than intended use. This is broader than intended use. Basic products liability concepts. The defendant must be a merchant. Product must be defective. The plaintiff must show defect existed when it left the defendant's control. The plaintiff must be making foreseeable use of the product. Note: this is broader than intended use. Strict products liability. The elements for strict products liability are 1. Strict duty owed by a commercial supplier of a product. 2. Breach of that duty. 3. Causation, actual and proximate. And 4. Damage. Proper plaintiff. Privity is not required. Users, consumers, and bystanders can sue. Note, make sure we can establish the plaintiff. Proper defendant. Any commercial seller can be held liable. Casual sellers will not be held liable in strict liability. Defendant has a duty to supply safe products. Note, duty of the defendant is to supply safe products. Breach. This is your type of defect analysis. Remember, the defendant must make the product unreasonably dangerous. Note, the defect is the breach. Causation. Actual cause. Plaintiff must show the defect existed when the plaintiff left the defendant's control. Proximate cause. Same as in negligence. Damage. Physical injury or property damage must be proved. No recovery for solely economic loss. Defenses. Contributory negligence states this is not a defense if the plaintiff didn't understand the danger. It is a defense if the plaintiff was aware of the risk and unreasonably proceeded in the face of the risk. Assumption of the risk is a defense in strict liability. Comparative negligence. Most states that follow comparative negligence allow this defense in strict liability. Disclaimers. Disclaimers are irrelevant in strict liability claims and negligence claims if personal injury or property damage occur. Products liability and negligence. This is the second cause of action that can be addressed. The elements are duty, breach, causation, and damages. Products liability and negligence duty. Duty of care owed to all foreseeable plaintiffs. Proper plaintiff. Any foreseeable plaintiff is a proper plaintiff. Proper defendant. Commercial suppliers, manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, etc. Products liability and negligence breach. Breach. Negligent conduct of the defendant leading to supplying of a defective product. Invokes re ipsa liquidator. Causation, damage, defenses. Same as in general negligence action, except recovery is denied if the sole claim is economic loss. Products liability and implied warranty theories. 2 implied warranty theories. 1. Implied warranty of merchantability. 2. Implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. Implied warranty of merchantability refers to whether the goods are of average acceptable quality and are generally fit for the ordinary purposes for which the goods are used. Implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. Seller knows or has reason to know the particular purpose for which the goods are required and that the buyer is relying on the seller's skill and judgment in selecting the goods. How is an implied warranty breach? If the product fails to live up to the standards, the warranty is breached and the defendant is liable. Causation, damages, and defenses. Causation, same as general negligence. Damages, purely economic loss is recoverable. Personal injury and property loss are also recoverable, as with other product liability theories. Defenses, assumption of the risk, contributory negligence to the same extent as strict products liability. Representation theories and products liability. The defendant may be liable when the product does not live up to an affirmative representation. 1. Express warranty. 2. Misrepresentation of fact. Note, only use supra for rules. Express warranty. Any affirmation of fact or promise that becomes a part of the basis of the bargain creates an express warranty. Breach of warranty. Product failed to live up to its warranty. Causation, damages, defenses, same as implied warranties. Misrepresentation of fact. Seller will be held liable for misrepresentation of fact concerning the product. 1. Statement was a material fact concerning quality or use of goods, and merely puffery is insufficient. 2. Seller intended to induce reliance by the buyer. Misrepresentation, reliance. Justifiable reliance is required. This means the representation was a substantial factor in inducing the purchase of the product. Reliance does not need to be the victims. Can be the prior purchasers. Note, if there is no bearing on the plaintiff's decision making. Misrepresentation, causation, and damages. Actual cause is shown by reliance. Proximate cause and damages are the same as strict products liability. Misrepresentation, defenses. Assumption of the risk is not a defense if the plaintiff is entitled to rely on the representation. Contributory negligence is the same as strict product liability unless the defendant committed intentional misrepresentation. Products liability and intent. The plaintiff was injured by an unsafe product and defendant intended the consequences or knew they were substantially certain to occur. Product liability questions based on intent are rare. If intent is present, the tort is battery. Products liability and essay writing. The fact pattern will have someone getting injured by a product and general directions for you to address the issue. Raise all possible claims, not just clear, strict products liability. Consider the alternative claims to be made. A typical products liability essay addresses 3 theories. Headings for strict product liability cause of action. Your headings for strict liability cause of action will be proper plaintiff, proper defendant, defective product, a type of defect, causation, actual cause and proximate cause, damages, and defenses. This ends the strict liability, product liability audio outline.